Welcome to the Raise podcast. I'm Carol Barwick. We're here to raise your confidence and inspire your creativity. Each episode, we will have a different guest who will be discussing our Raise word. The Raise word is a word that will encourage you or empower you and at times inspire you to explore the word a little more for yourself. Well, hello everybody and welcome to the Raise podcast. I'm Carol Barwick. We are in season 4 and this episode is a very special one because we're celebrating our birthday. And what better way to celebrate, and who better to celebrate with somebody that's really been through it all with us, and that is Anna McManus-Hughes. Good morning, Anna. How are you doing?
Good morning, Carol. I'm really, really well. And thank you so much for inviting me onto your lovely podcast. And I am honoured to help share your birthday celebrations.
I'm so excited for this. Anna, we're going to look at the word accountability because that is certainly a word that you and I have shared over the past 8 or 9 years or so. But before we do that, what does the word accountability mean to you?
Okay, so I was looking at this. I did do a little Google of the dictionary definition. And it is the fact or condition of being accountable, which doesn't really give anything away because it uses a similar word to describe the word of accountability. Then we dig a bit deeper into accountable. That's required or expected to justify actions or decisions. And that felt quite strong for me, quite a harsh description of what I think of accountability. And I suppose it's twofold. When I think about accountability, I think about two different things. One is a lot of what I do with my clients, with lovely women like you, which is to hold people accountable in a loving way. The other thing is about how we hold ourselves accountable. And I think they're two separate things. So it has a double meaning for me, that word. It's whether we are holding someone accountable or holding ourselves accountable can be two very different things.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because if you're going to model accountability well, then you need to be seen to be accountable yourself. However, the whole thing about accountability is including somebody else, isn't it?
Yeah.
So let's start. I'd like to start kind of at the beginning. So I remember being in a room with a lot of ladies. I was very nervous. I wasn't sure if it was the right place for me. They were all business women. They were all very high powered. And then there was this amazing group of ladies called the Top Birds. And you were one of them. And I remember looking at the top birds in this bird board meeting and thinking, wow, kind of a bit of the untouchables. That's how I felt. I felt very much like I'm never going to fit in here quite. And yet you then have ended up kind of mentoring me and being my friend for the last 7 or 8 years, something like that, Anna. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah.
And all of that, it didn't melt away. All of the respect and the wonder of being mentored by somebody that has got so much credibility and knows so much stands. But the way that you do it is a real gift. You really care about women particularly, and their place in the workplace. Tell me a little bit about how that looks for you and where that journey started for you.
Oh, wow. It's a tough one about where it started. I suppose I've always wanted to help people to be the best version of themselves.
Yeah.
And I think often people will go through programs or qualifications in order to attain things, to get progression within their business or their life. And I haven't necessarily followed that path. A lot of what I have done has been based on feeling of being empathetic with people or being in tune with people. And so when I work with women particularly, which I have done for the past 12 years now,
Yeah, yeah,
it is really coming from a place of empowering them, so that if women feel like you do, and actually most of us feel as you did at that point, almost on a daily basis, we question, don't we, whether we are doing the right thing, whether we are good enough,
yeah.
whether we are the same as, that whole comparison element is very real, for everyone. It's about breaking some of that down, um, and working with people really on that level of saying, I'm here to help you, um, genuinely. And so that's what I hope I bring to how I build relationships, particularly with women who are wanting to build their own businesses.
Absolutely, absolutely, you do. And yeah, I love the way that it is so genuine when you talk to people and you empower them. I know that people feel that um you really give so much of yourself as well as all the skills and the knowledge that you've got. And that's something a bit different. Not everybody does do that. A lot of people can read off a crib sheet or go back to their qualifications and trawl up through bits. But to really care about somebody and want to see them change, um, it is a gift. And I know that you have really seen me change over the years and seen Ray's change over the years. I'm obviously we're on a podcast, but I always do these as a visual, so that I can see the guest, and I'm seeing lovely Anna in her office. And I remember Anna's wall. Now, that doesn't mean that Anna was boring and that I just focus on the wall, but a lot happened on that wall, didn't it, Anna? We used to put bits of paper up
Yeah.
and write all the different things that I was doing and plan it and plot and dream, and that hasn't changed. Obviously, it looks different now. Um, but those times have been so important. Let's cycle back a little bit. Who in your life do you think has empowered you? Who have you felt has kind of got alongside you in your either your walk work or personal life?
Um, I count myself really fortunate that, I think my mum has been an extremely strong role model
Yeah,
for me, um, in my life. Just in terms of equipping us with some of the skills that, perhaps others don't have. And you only realize, that as you grow older, you think your childhood is the same as everybody else's as
yeah,
as a small child, don't you? You think everybody is having a similar experience to you. It's only, as you grow up or make other relationships and connections, that you realize that perhaps that's slightly different. I think my mum, and thankfully she is still with us, and she's still really going strong, and she has this kind of spirit of keeping on going.
yeah,
And actually, she's very good at breaking things down and working through things and being inspiring. And just thinking back to those days when you used to come here into this room that you
yeah,
can currently see, and we used to get those dreams up on that wall. Part of my job was to allow you to get all that creative stuff out of your head, and it was all on the wall, wasn't it?
yeah,
Um, well, on flip charts on the
I
wall.
was going to
We
say,
didn't just scroll on the wall.
I know you love me, but you did not just allow me to scribble
Didn't.
all over your wall and then
No, we
repaint
didn't.
over it.
That would have been really creative, but
Yes,
it was on flip charts.
and quite
Um,
permanent.
but part of my job was then to help you bring that into a sense of order. And I think I've always got that from my mum.
Yeah,
You know, how to put things in a sense of order, and how to plan ahead, and how to be organized, and how to be forward thinking. And she is an inspiration to me because she is so strong and she has overcome so many things. And I think she's done a pretty good job with all four of us. So we're still here and we're okay, and we're kind of living decent lives.
yeah,
You have to look at that. She is, but I think along the way people touch you at different times in your life.
yeah,
So it's scary for me to think, ooh, I've been working as this is for 33 years now, and that's a long time, um and there have been people who've come into my life and then for only maybe a short space of time, but they leave an imprint, or
yeah,
they open a door for you that you didn't know existed. um so when I think back to things to do with, you know NLP and coaching and mentoring, and actually this whole other world, that perhaps I realize now I did some of that instinctively.
okay,
I didn't put a name to it.
yeah,
Um, but it is part of that passion for me, around helping people. So I'm grateful that I've had those different experiences over the 33 years to allow me to come to a place where I am now of working with wonderful women like you to help them on their journey.
yeah, yeah. I think the same with my mum, actually, remembering how, particularly in my GCSE years, I did not want to revise. I did not want to revise. And, I had so many other things that I wanted to do. And it was, it was my mum, and I'm sure my dad as well, but they encouraged me to do things creatively. So I wrote songs to learn the stuff I needed for my science exams. And I remember cutting up bits of revision sheets into jigsaw shapes and putting them back together.
Oh, wow.
Anything that they could do to keep me engaged in what I found was an incredibly boring situation.
Mm,
And if that's not accountability, I don't know what is. They really did make me accountable to doing what I should be doing, but finding the best ways to do it. And again, I think that goes back to you as a business coach, that you listen to our needs and what the crux of what we're saying, but then enable us to do it in a way that excites us. And I love our phone calls when I'm feeling really wobbly, and by the end we're always both excited about what's going to happen next. And I love that. I wanted to just touch on your name, the pink dragonfly, and how that has all come about, because that was all kind of very organic, but it's been exciting kind of watching that grow. Tell me a bit about
oh,
pink
yeah.
dragonfly.
It was, and you were part of that as well, because I remember it was at a time when I knew I wanted to have a business name that represented who I was, and what I wanted to achieve.
Yeah,
And I remember us sitting round tables, those business women, talking about the challenges that we had. And you had mentioned about butterflies and this transformational element. Um, and I knew that I wanted to support business women. I knew that there was a huge number of amazing women out there who were absolutely fantastic at the thing that they do, and yet didn't have a business background, hadn't been as fortunate as me in my 30 odd years of work to have been exposed to some of that strategy and planning and forecasting and budget and, building a business. So I knew that there was the pink element, and I'm unashamedly stereotypical there because I love pink. I
Yeah.
just, absolutely love pink, but it summed up part of I want to work with women.
Mm.
And the dragonfly element was really all about that transformation.
Yeah.
So they are very much synonymous with the transformative aspect. And it takes them so long for them to come to fruition from the grubby little chrysalis in the bottom of the stream or pond to this amazing, magical, beautifully coloured creature. And I'm not suggesting that any of us are grubby little creatures in the bottom of the stream,
Oh,
but it can take a
I
while
can
for
put
us
my
to
hand up to that one.
transform. It can, though, can't it?
Yeah.
It can take a while for
Yeah.
us to transform. And I think in this world where we are fed instant results and, next day, next hour delivery of anything that you want, be it, a computer or a cup of coffee, social media, in a way, has conditioned us to think that we can build really productive and amazing businesses and be hugely successful in terms of money and clients and wealth or whatever it is that we aspire to do instantly.
Yeah.
And the reality is that that doesn't usually happen if you haven't got the basics and the foundations of what's there. And it's always a work in progress. The list never ends. There's always something else to add to it. So for me, the pink dragonfly really is about that transformation and about that journey and that cycle. And that sums up me and my business, I guess.
Mm. The thing I love about dragonflies is, I think my favorite part is the wings, but they are so fragile, aren't they? And I remember really thinking about butterflies and how fragile they are, and that they're at their most fragile is when they've just come out of the cocoon and they have to wait to dry, and they know that they're going to fly, they know that they've got their wings, but boy, anything could happen in the next, what's it? Anything can happen in the next half hour. I think that's right there. And they have to trust. They have to trust. And I think perhaps that's where I was at when I kind of joined Bird Board and the ladies at the time, that I knew that I wanted to fly. I think I'd got tiddy wings. Sometimes in the stories when the fairies grow, they have these tiny little wings, and I had these tiny little wings. And boy, was I afraid that I was going to just get eaten by somebody straight away, that I was going to dare to go, I've got a wing. And they go, oh. For people listening on the podcast, that's me simulating someone being eaten. Dragonfly, obviously.
Yes.
But it's scary. And I think to have people to stand by you and keep you accountable right at the beginning to say, I see your wings and we will fly, but you are fragile and that's okay. And let's do this together, is a really amazing gift, because you and I know, particularly for women that are forging their own way in their very own businesses, everything feels fragile, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And when you're new to it, and as you said, if you don't have that business background that some people do, or that corporate knowledge and corporate mind, feels even more fragile. So to have that accountability and know that people have got your back, have got your wings, is something that's really important. And I think for me, that's one of the ways that accountability really shows itself in the business world. Thank you for joining us on this Ray's birthday episode. It's been fantastic to listen to Anna and be kept accountable so that we can keep Ray's going in the way we want to. Obviously, the podcast is a huge part of what Raise does, so do keep sharing and telling people about what we do, and a rating really helps us with our visibility. Don't forget to pop over to our website, www.raiseforall.com, to find out all the things that we want to offer you. Back to the episode. So, Anna, we've talked a little bit about pink dragonfly being a larva at the bottom of the pond. Oh, it's lovely. And a little bit of who's inspired you to keep you accountable. Let's dive in a little bit into how you do that, and why particularly accountability has become such a big thing in the business groups that you have and the coaching style that you have.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think probably from personal experience, but also from what clients and members of the lovely group that you're in, the brilliant businesswomen community, say is that often it's harder to keep yourself accountable.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether this is a female thing. I don't know whether it's a personality thing, but it is across the board. It's not, there are many people who find it hard to keep themselves accountable. They put themselves to the bottom of the pile, especially for women.
Yeah.
So if you are starting a business, running a business, and you have all the other responsibilities that might go along with whatever your life looks like. So maybe you have got partner or children or grandchildren or parents, lots of other things going on. It's easy to put others' needs first. And I do think that's a female attribute rather than a male one, because it's that nurturing personality, that trait that we have to look after others. So women seem to have it more that whatever needs to happen, their needs go to the bottom of the pile.
Yeah.
And everything else happens first. So we almost find it easier to let ourselves down than anyone else, because everyone else's needs are going up the pile and ours are coming down. So when we let that happen, particularly when we're building our businesses, when we're getting things off the ground, when we're on that wheel, that can lead to frustration. It can lead to resentment, because you always feel like you're the last and it doesn't ever happen. And you see everybody else progressing perhaps, and you're not getting to the place you want to be as quickly. What can be helpful when we are able to hold other people accountable is that there's almost this commitment. So a commitment to someone else. And I think that's what works. I come from a place of supporting clients. You will know this. You have been part of our lovely group for some time, as well as working one-to-one with me. And even you say that just the thought of an accountability day is enough to get you to spring into action before we've even started. So it's almost that trigger of just the thought of being accountable and me asking a question or me remembering what you said you'd do is enough to help spring you forward and take some action. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? So yes, it's a support from a supportive place, and equally in a kindly, challenging way.
Yeah.
That's how I want to be perceived, and that's how I want to run my coaching and mentoring with people, is that yes, you're to feel supported, but also challenged. Because if I don't challenge you, you'll just keep dropping yourself to the bottom of the pile. And you'll just keep going with those excuses of why things haven't happened. And actually, we want to motivate you to achieve that thing, because ultimately you have an outcome, you have a goal, you have a dream that you want to achieve. And I want to help you get to that point. So those are the processes I have to go through in order to help you get to where you want to be. in a nice way.
It's in a nice way, don't worry. Yeah, I think it's almost like I need to ask myself that question as well. If I was to ask myself why is accountability important to me? I mean, you're right. Uh, it's a bit of goal setting. It's the you've got to earn it bit of me. The we're allowed to have rewards bit of me.
Mm,
The incentive and the need to be able to do something so then the creativity kicks in. All of that is what sparks when we have an accountability day. So we'll just briefly unpack that. An accountability day, we're you host a lovely group on Facebook, and an accountability day is a time for us to say what we want to get done in that day, and we can kind of post about it or tell each other about it, kind of set our intentions at the beginning, and then hopefully share our wins with each other at the end. Do you want to add anything to that? It's a bit of a clumsy way of
yeah, no, I think
explaining
I
it.
think that's that in essence is the day, isn't it? We start by setting those intentions, and I think that's one of the crucial parts.
Yeah,
Simply because we are all so busy that most of the time we rush headlong into a day, and we know that we want to do certain things, but we become distracted. And
yeah,
so by setting intentions and getting really clear about what those things are, is important. As is, as you've rightly said, the goal setting, you have to know what direction you're going in. And I always want you to set yourself up for success. So we think about what is achievable in the hours that you have that day. Because we're great at making a long, long list of all the things we want to achieve. You know, we very often do that to ourselves, don't we? That we underestimate how much time it will simply take to do one thing. So it's about setting yourself up for success. And rightly, as you say, at the end of the day, reflecting on what you have achieved and rewarding yourself. That
yeah,
might be a bath or reading a book or going for a walk. It doesn't have to be anything grand. It's just an acknowledgement and recognition of an achievement.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of making faces because I'm also thinking, for me, it's about not getting distracted by all the shiny, beautiful things. And that's very much something that we have in our group, not getting distracted by those shiny things, not starting to magpie and
Yeah.
or go down the social media rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Both those things
Yeah.
are real dangers. And accountability just, I think it just sharpens your focus a little bit, and that feeling that you might have one or more people that are going to come to you and say, have you done it? And obviously, as you've kind of walked this journey with me, you've seen how difficult it's become for me over the last few years. Um, but knowing that I still can achieve things, and actually that they're seemingly even bigger wins for me now than they were. Um, and that I do, although I don't have the ability to force myself to suddenly have a load of energy, I do have the ability to pick something that I can do and do that. And
Yeah.
that's just as important. And being in a group of people that aren't saying, oh, well, you said last week you were going to, launch your website. Why haven't you done it? Well, it's not like that at all. It's just joy, isn't it? And celebrating with each other and celebrating the fact that somebody's got a new sewing room sorted out, which means actually they've got time for that important self-care. And so will be more focused on their job now because they know they've got time for themselves. It's as much joy as it is banging your head against a brick wall or hiding when Anna says, so how's your finance looking this month? And everybody ducks behind the wall and goes, so my social media is looking really pretty.
Yeah, you mean when the tumbleweed goes
Yep.
strolling across the Zoom screen?
Anybody listening who's in business, you know what I mean.
Yeah. My grid looks great. Not so sure
Yes,
about the income
everything
forecast.
is really pretty, but I don't know how much I brought in this month. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and knowing how important that bit is too, and sharing how we're going to do that bit together as well. So going through the difficult bits as well as the easy, joyful bits.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It goes back to what you mentioned about commitment. I think that accountability is about commitment.
Yeah,
When you commit to somebody else, intrinsically you don't want to let people down. So it can almost spur you on in a way that doing it for yourself doesn't. And you're so right about that community of sharing, the highs and the lows.
yeah,
And holistically, yes, it's the brilliant business women community. But when we run our own businesses, everything is encompassed in that. Because if certain areas of our life are out of balance or are causing challenge or upset, it feeds into everything else. And
yeah,
so it is important to think about, joy and mindset and self-care, not just spreadsheets and planning and targets. It's not one without the other. You know, we are complex human beings, aren't we? With needs across the whole range. And it's wonderful to see you all support each other too.
yeah. I think one of the key things with accountability is you need to find people that you trust, that are truly your cheerleaders. So not
Mm,
necessarily somebody that isn't doing the same as you, and so there's a competitive element, but finding people that want you to succeed kind of no matter what, whether you're doing the same thing or not, because in the Christian business women's group there are lots of people that are all doing the same thing, but we've still all got each other's backs and support each other,
yeah,
and
yeah.
are cheerleaders for each other. um Obviously, um without naming anybody, what kind of qualities do you look for in the people that you're accountable to?
Um, I look for honesty,
Yeah,
and objectivity when it comes to me being accountable for the things in my business and life. I want someone who can give that support, but equally can call me out
yeah,
if I'm not walking my walk.
yeah,
um, that is important. Often we can find that people have accountability buddies who are their mates or their friends,
yeah,
and it often doesn't work because their friend will go, "Oh, it's okay. Should we go for a coffee? Should we go for a piece of cake?" Or because they're coming from a different place, they still want the best for that person,
yeah,
but not in an objective way that they can hold them to account to that commitment. So as uncomfortable as it might be for me, I still look for that in others,
yeah,
that they will, you know, honestly hold me to my commitment and call me out. And I do need that because I can be a professional procrastinator. I hold my hand up. Maybe that's why I'm great at helping other people. You have to know what they're going through in order to help them, don't you? Right.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I can stand in those shoes with the next person. Um, but to be lovingly called out, held to that commitment, um, is part of that accountability, definitely.
yeah. And I think part of that is being known, and your business being known. I remember right at the beginning, in choir, somebody called me out, having been in choir for about 2 months, maybe about 2 months, and just said, what you did tonight wasn't very Raise. And I thought, wow, you've not really been part of Raise for very long. And yet you're calling me out on something because you've seen what Raise is about, that it is about everyone matters. It's about
Mm.
inspiring creativity and raising confidence. And to have someone calling me out at that point, that's someone that I've gone back to time and again, um, and kind of said, is this very Raise? Is this very Raise? And to have people that really get it, um, is so important. And you're right. I mean, I've got a wonderful group of women that have been my friends for years and years and years, all from different walks of life. Um, and they are my prayer buddies, and they are great at holding me accountable in different ways. So some will
Yeah.
just cheerlead, some will encourage, some will give me a ring and say, seriously, get a grip. Um, and that kind of knowledge of Raise as a business and me as well is so important, because you can surround yourself by yes people, but
Mm.
actually that that isn't authentic. It doesn't provide the very best results. It will provide results. It will provide probably fairly good results, but it doesn't provide the best, most authentic um, way of showing up as a business, I
Yeah,
think.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely agree. It's not to have all yes people is not going to be helpful to us as individuals if we want to achieve that goal.
Yeah. And,
Um,
and
yeah.
actually, some of the most difficult conversations I've had are um with my husband, but that's because sometimes it feels like he sees Rays more than I do. And that is always a bit strange. But sometimes he'll say something and I'll be so defensive. Um, and yet it then unfolds that way. And and that can be really hard. So accountability isn't just about finding a person that um, has got your back and thinks you're absolutely amazing the whole time. It's more than that, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it is. You know, you just mentioned your husband, and if I think about Mr. H, he is my biggest cheerleader. I know that. And that's a great place to be because so many women don't have partners who recognize their worth as a woman building a business.
Yeah,
So it's great to have that cheerleader. And the flip side is he also challenges me.
yeah,
And he challenges me because he knows me so well. And because he also knows what my dream is.
yeah,
So it has a good and a bad side when we allow that. But yes, very much is if we don't allow people to challenge us or to hold us accountable, we're not going to get to that vision that we want.
yeah, absolutely. Anna, just we're starting to get to the end. Just tell us a little bit about exactly what you do and the groups that you run. So we've not left with just a wonderful conversation, but no idea where to find you. So just tell us a little bit
Ah,
about that,
aren't you
please.
lovely? Okay, so I do several things. I work one to one with clients who want coaching or mentoring in terms of their business, their strategy, their planning, and their mindset. So as I said earlier, the two go hand in hand. So I work one to one with clients, either on Zoom or in person. And as you know, I also run our lovely, brilliant businesswomen community, which is a private Facebook group. And there are other resources that we hold online, which is very much focused on action, consistency, and accountability. That's the kind of the key words for that group. Um, and then I also have started running workshops. So very recently, I'm collaborating on workshops that we're holding for business women so that they can come and spend some time getting really clear about their strategy, their business planning, and working with Andrea, who is providing them with help with that content so that they can have a wonderful, mapped out, lovely looking grid once they've got their plan sorted and ready for the 90 days. So, people can find me on social media, Instagram, Facebook, anywhere they like. Always open to working with women who actually want to move their business forward.
That's brilliant. And we'll put all those details in the show notes. So we've got two final things to do. The first is that we always have a bit of a challenge for our listeners. And so I think it would be sensible for our challenge today to be if you haven't got somebody that you're really accountable to, or you know that you've got somebody who is a yes person and loves the idea of going out for coffee with you, but doesn't really get exactly what it is that you need to move your business forward, then why don't you map out and have a think about what a good accountability partner might look like for you? Or do you need to be in a group like I'm in, where there are several women that do different things that will give you different levels of accountability? And if you are not a business person at all, accountability is still incredibly important. You might want to lose weight. You might want to drink more water. You might want to make sure that you're making time for yourself. Having an accountability partner in that context is just as important. So who really does hold you accountable? Who does hold you accountable? And make sure that you say the right things over the air and don't look like a wally at the end. Yeah. Anna, have you got anything to add to that challenge?
No, I think you summed that up. I think that'll give people food for thought, really. Maybe they can think about the area that they need accountability
Yeah.
in their life. Like you said, it could be anything: fitness, health, self-care. There'll be an area where you need to be held accountable. So thinking about that one is also important.
Yeah. And also, what might it look like if you start being held accountable? How might things change if that goal just sharpens up a little bit? Okay, so Anna, we get to the part of the podcast where I write you a little poem.
Oh,
I'm definitely
excited.
not going to find a word that rhymes with accountability, so I'm just putting that on the table right now.
I'm
Although, do you
sorry.
know what? I've just thought of the word surmountability, so I'm going to try and get that in there somewhere. I don't know what it means, so answers on a postcard. Okay. And just give me a couple of seconds. Accountability is you and me, and seeing what we want to see and being who we want to be. But not just saying yes, embracing mess and saying we might be fragile at times, but we have wings and we can grow. And I believe that I know what you can achieve if we believe together. There you go.
That was awesome. That's going on my wall,
I
Carol
didn't use the
Barwick.
word surmountability. I'm really sorry. Please don't get in
I don't
touch and tell me
care.
off.
That's getting printed out and it's going on my wall.
I will
Thank you.
send it to you. Anna, thank you for keeping Raise going, for getting rid of my wobbles, and for seeing Raise as it is and can be. And thank you for your time today.
You're most welcome. Wonderful to join you. Thanks, Carol.
Thank you.